We start off with a pandemic that is in its second year as countries around the world continue to grapple with coronavirus and a vaccine crisis that plagues several nations. The World Health Organization opened its annual assembly amidst all of this, and arguably one of its most important assemblies in history. This time the meeting opened a draft resolution in the works, one that acknowledges missteps in the response to COVID-19. The sweeping proposal will seek to boost pandemic response, stabilize the funding of the UN Health Agency, and ensure greater access to health care, including to vaccines, tests, and treatments linked to the coronavirus. This comes as the UN Secretary General declared that the world was at a war with the virus.
We are at war with the virus. We need the logic and urgency of a war economy to boost the capacity of our weapons.
Guterres called on world leaders to take bold decisions to end the pandemic from spreading and mutating in poorer countries, stressing that COVID-19 cannot be beaten one country at a time.
Sadly, unless we act now, we face a situation in which rich countries vaccinate the majority of their people and open their economies, while the virus continues to cause deep suffering by circling and mutating in the poorest countries. Further spikes and surges could claim hundreds of thousands of lives and slow the global economic recovery. COVID-19 cannot be beaten one country at a time.
Meanwhile, WHO Chief Dr. Tedros talked about his concerns about unequal access to vaccines, saying that over 75% of vaccines have been administered in just 10 countries. He added that the ongoing vaccine crisis is a scandalous inequity, one that has been perpetuating the global pandemic.
The ongoing vaccine crisis is a scandalous inequity that's perpetuating the pandemic. More than 75% of all vaccines have been administered in just 10 countries. There is no diplomatic way to say it. A small group of countries that make and buy the majority of the world's vaccines control the fate of the rest of the world. Countries that vaccinate children and other low-risk groups now do so at the expense of health workers and high-risk groups in other countries. That's the reality now.
Meanwhile, French President Emmanuel Macron rallied around efforts to strengthen the World Health Organization. Both Macron and Germany's Merkel called for strengthening the world's ability to prepare for and defending against pandemics. The European Union is behind a resolution which will be considered during the 8-day assembly. It calls for the creation of yet another multilateral structure, a working group on strengthening WHO's readiness and response to health emergencies.
Le premier enseignement de cette crise, c'est que nous ne pouvons réussir qu'ensemble. Aucun pays seul ne sauvera le monde et aucun pays ne se sauvera d'ailleurs seul. Chacun de nos concitoyens l'a parfaitement compris. Cette pandémie est mondiale par essence. Elle l'a été par les mécanismes de contamination, elle l'est dans nos réponses. La réponse, elle ne peut donc être que multilatérale.